What is happening? Welcome to another episode of Nintendo News Daily. I'm your host, N64 Josh, and we're just giving people a minute to roll in. Before we do, I want to let you know we're doing this live on YouTube, and I'm live on TikTok today as well. Monday through Friday, 3:30 p.m. Eastern. I'm a few minutes late today. Do forgive me. I the final topic I wanted to get more research done. So you're going to notice from the thumbnail today that it says, "Is this a PlayStation?" And it's showing the Switch. And so after we get through the news, we are going to be talking about is the PlayStation going is PlayStation going to be putting their games on Switch 2? And I personally think it's very, very possible. And I know there will be a lot of people that will be very, very upset, but we're already seeing this happen. So before we jump into this, if you have not hit that like button and you're not subscribed, make sure to do that. And let's go ahead and play the intro. Okay, so welcome on in. We're going to go ahead and jump into the news. I do want to let you guys know that as you're rolling in, if you are on TikTok, I cannot display your comments like I can on YouTube. So just keep that in mind. If you want your comment to be a part of the show, I can only display that on screen if you're on YouTube. So I see Sunshine's hanging out over on TikTok. Welcome on in. Got a handful of people lurking in the comments and stuff. Thank you guys for being here. I appreciate it. And we're going to jump into this. Nintendo is probably the easiest to scam. Devs discuss the current state of the eShop. So let's take a look at the article here from Nintendo Life. It says, "We all know that in the year of our Lord 2025, the Switch eShop has had its fair share of problems. It's slow, it's clunky, and it's flooded with games that we'd rather not have to wade through. But what's it like from the other side? How does the storefront hold up if you're the one trying to sell games on it?" That was the question recently asked by IGN in a new feature that put Nintendo storefront and Sony and Microsoft and Valve's under the microscope. Unsurprisingly, the devs are just as tired of it as we all are. Talking about the rise of scam games on the eShop in particular, one anonymous developer told the outlet that Nintendo is probably the easiest to scam, claiming that anything is possible once a studio has got one game approved. "Once I'm in the door," the dev continued, "I will make fart fart." That's literally the name. The name fart fart booby fart, the game, and maybe it would eventually get taken down. But it's so odd. It's so odd. So crazy. I see more people jumped in on YouTube here. Cece, hello. Sunshine is over on YouTube as well. Becca's over on TikTok. Welcome on in, guys. Looks like Kiwi as well. And Jenna, welcome on in. Like I said, guys, if you want your comments on screen, you have to be on YouTube. I'm basically just live on TikTok to push people to YouTube so that they can be part of the conversation. So that's literally it. But yeah, so what a great name of a game here. It says this practice stems from how easy it is to get a game up that blatantly doesn't match the description, the devs told IGN, with platform holders trusting the developer rather than always checking in advance. In other words, developers get to ask for forgiveness instead of permission. What's more, the punishment for being caught advertising a game that clearly doesn't match the description can often amount to little more than a tap on the wrist, IGN reports. So, yet those interviewed also claim that Nintendo in particular can fall the other way, rejecting games and giving little to no reason for its decision. It's rough getting games accepted and rougher still getting them removed, it seems. So, uh, yet those interviewed also claim that Nintendo, let's see, I got that. So while both Sony and Valve are guilty of many of the issues listed above, one developer told IGN that Nintendo's history with its storefronts doesn't bode well for the future. "It's logic defying how their stores are so bad," the dev told the outlet. "They could check anyone else's store and see what to do. I'm optimistic it will be 10% better than the Switch store." So, uh, I mean, just last week or the week before um, when we did the one of these episodes and we looked at the download. The Nintendo, every Thursday, Nintendo sends out an email with all the games coming to the Switch. And I mean, you guys probably remember me commenting on it. It's like there's so many just random games that like we uh like who's playing these? Who's buying these? Right? I think we joked that it's probably only Nate's son who's buying these games when Nate's not looking and he's not playing the Law and Order theme, right? So like who it's such an odd place that it's like so there's just so many random titles on there. And like the guy said, you can once you get a game in the door, and I remember the early stages of the Switch, it was like there was more like known indies, and then all of a sudden it just like turned to shovelware. And what's really crazy is like, when you look at the history of Nintendo and how like they were so like pro family friendly on everything, and then you go into the if you go into the eShop, you can find some crazy stuff. I mean, speaking of Nate, he's made me play some crazy games that he's bought from the eShop, and it's just surprising that some of these games get put there. And then, like these devs were saying, in some cases, the games won't get approved, and they're not even like there's no reason why. And so it's just so bizarre. So uh very, very interesting to see that as the case. Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. Jenna said you can't look at the eShop in public. Yeah, exactly. But fingers crossed that the next eShop is going to be better. So Cryptic says, I just hopped in. What I missed? We're just talking about how developers say that the Nintendo is probably the easiest to scam when it comes to the eShop, and how once they get a game in, they can pretty much put whatever they want in there. And so it's just kind of interesting for a company that seems so like regimented and like by the book, that the eShop is this way. So it's just quite interesting to see this is the case. And it's also nice to see from the perspective of the developers that are putting games up here. They don't like it just as much as we don't like it. So next up here, oh, I already had that one open. My bad. Looking right here. Mysterious patent. This is really cool, you guys. I think if this is what I had seen earlier in the year or at the end of last year, this is kind of interesting and kind of cool. So I see Rox is here. What's going on? Welcome on in. It says a mysterious patent hints at predictive input for Nintendo Switch 2. And the article on Nintendo Life says, what if your controller could sense your next move? And that's hardly science fiction. After all, rollback netcode is used in many leading fighting games to do just that. But a patent has been spotted by Tom's Guide and Game Rant, which hints that Nintendo could include it in Switch 2 at a hardware level. The patent was filed by the Japanese company in August of 2024 and published on January 23rd of this year. It appears to be a system that tracks button presses, directional movements, with the goal of predicting the next possible input sequence. The apparent upside is that the system will be able to learn from your button inputs in certain games and to use the data to speed things up, such as commonly repeated menu selections. Rollback netcode does a similar thing, but in that mechanic, the system is predicting the next input and rolling back if the player input is different, rather than memorizing a sequence of inputs. As with this patent, it is important to note that just because it is filed, it doesn't mean it will actually happen. However, it's certainly an interesting prospect, one of the many ways Nintendo could make Switch 2 different from its forerunner. And so I'm trying to look here at the related articles. I don't see them mention it, but Mike Odyssey, who's got a great YouTube channel as well, and I believe I was on a podcast with him. I'm pretty sure on Nintendo Prime. I think we were on an episode together. Really good dude though, but he digs into these. He digs into these patents often, and he found one that the similar one that has this predictive input, but also one that is kind of like force feedback when it comes to the sticks. So like, let's say if you were running as Mario and you hit the wall, like the stick would actually bounce back to center and you couldn't push it to the right any further. So I'm not sure. I mean, I as always will trust Nintendo when it comes to this kind of stuff. Sometimes it never sees the light of day, but I'm also very curious on what that could mean for just different gameplay loops and the way we play some games. I see Nadine A is here. He'll have to go back and listen to the to his mention earlier in the stream. So, and just a quick heads up, if you guys are on TikTok, if you want to have like, you see how I can have comments pop up like this. If you want to have your comments on stream, especially when we get to the last topic, I know you guys are going to have a lot to say on this. Make sure you are on YouTube. So, this is actually going to this is going to slowly move us into our final topic, but ex-PlayStation boss on Switch 2's name. Nintendo created so much brand value. Why would you mess with that? Okay. And so again, we're looking at Nintendo Life here, and it says Nintendo is arguably taking the safe route with the name of its Switch successor, confirming at the start of this year it would be officially known as the Switch 2. And if you're still wondering why it's called this or why Nintendo didn't go with a more exciting, name, ex-PlayStation boss Sean Layden has now shared his thoughts during an interview with the Kiwi Talks with the Kiwi Talks hosted by Reese Riley. When it was acknowledged how Nintendo took a page out of PlayStation's naming conventions with the use of numbers, Layden noted how it simply comes down to brand value. It simply comes down to brand value. So Sean says Nintendo created so much brand value in the word Switch. Why would you mess with that? And it's so true. So the Switch has now shifted over 146 million units globally as of September 2024, so it's easy to see just how much brand value there is in the word Switch. When also queried with with Nintendo's current position within the gaming landscape, Layden reiterated how Nintendo's created its own lane, or private Idaho, as he previously put it, and its future looks bright. This is the quote from Sean. It says, "Everyone respects Nintendo; they're a competitor, but you respect everything they've done to create this industry that we all now enjoy, or that we all enjoy and love. So I think they'll keep on keeping on the way they do it. They've got the right people around it, the right attitude around it. They've been in the business a long time. They've seen all the peaks and the valleys, and they will continue to be successful." And the article finishes up by saying Microsoft's gaming CEO Phil Spencer also recently commented on Switch 2, mentioning he thinks the system will be a massive success and how you don't bet against Nintendo. And so this leads us into the main topic of today's show. And if you guys have seen, all of Xbox's recent marketing that they've done, saying that this is an Xbox, and it's showing a phone and a computer, and it's showing tablets and TVs, and everything is an Xbox, essentially stating that they are now a game publisher, not only a hardware manufacturer. And a quick note on that too, I don't think Xbox is gonna stop. I think we have at least one more generation of Xbox, and I personally believe, with the technology that we're seeing, that we can assume from leaks that is in the Switch 2, that Microsoft will take a page out of Nintendo's book with the technology that is now available, and their next console will do will have similar. Will run games in a similar sense with the machine learning and the DLSS and all that stuff, just like PlayStation did. But I think Microsoft will probably do it a little bit smarter, because they have to, right? They have to come in with a machine that can be priced around the $299 to $399 price point, run Game Pass like an absolute champ, hopefully have more storage, but then to have like a DLSS kind of tech into it, but then to come in like the PlayStation 5 Pro is like $700, right? Like it's so the price is just it's crazy, honestly. It's crazy. And so, all right, Jenna, take it easy. And so with Xbox doing that, as you can see from the thumbnail, my question is the Switch 2 also a PlayStation? Right? Because everybody's pretty confident that the Switch 2 is an Xbox, right? Like maybe it isn't running Game Pass, but Xbox games are going to be played there. So, taking a look real quick at some comments here. Cryptic says, "Do you think Switch is just Nintendo's console name going forward, or will we see a new name at some point in the future?" No, I don't. I don't think we'll see a new name. I think the in my mind, there's maybe two scenarios that we see a different name. Either they absolutely crush in the hybrid space and then decide to get back into the main console space. But I don't think they're going to want to split their teams again and have a handheld team and a console team, a home console team. And so I think the other alternative to that is if things just tank. If Switch 2 is not a huge success, they may rethink things. Like they may rethink it, you know. But other than that, I think they stay Switch for quite some time. Cryptic says, does Nintendo have its own rights for NVIDIA to use their tech on their platforms? That is a question I don't know. And then Cryptic also says, because Xbox is known to use AMD tech, so they could incorporate their AI upscaling. Yes. Yeah. And that's kind of what I was getting at. It's mostly just the AI machine learning upscaling that can take place within gaming. I think it's the solution that was lacking in this last generation, keeping things not great for them. Like the amount of times I heard about game, like Sony has 8K on the PlayStation 5 box. And we can't, these machines sometimes struggle to get their games to run at 1080 60. And so I think this is the tech that is really needed to be able to move games into the future. I think again, pure gut feeling, April 2nd we'll know more and we'll have a much greater understanding. But I think there's a real possibility that we're going to kind of be blown away by what the Switch 2 is doing with this technology. I do not have the expectation that it's like going to be as strong as an Xbox Series X or like a PlayStation 5 Pro. Like that's not even what I'm thinking at all. But more along the lines of like, you know, I mean, like we said, the PS4 Pro, the Xbox One, like even the Xbox One X or whatever, you know, that was a pretty beefy machine. The only thing I've heard really said negatively about the Switch 2 has to do with the CPU coming into the later years of the Switch 2. That's when we might start seeing games struggle. But right now and in the next the few years, the upcoming years, I think we're going to see games running really, really great, really, really great. So Nate says Xbox had a deal recently with NVIDIA, I think. So yeah, it could be similar tech on that front then. Nate says, especially with the word on the street with Xbox making a handheld, they're going to need AI scaling help also. Yeah, no question. No question. So back to the topic at hand. Do you guys think that the Switch 2 will be a PlayStation? Do you think similar? Because I'm on the side that thinks it will happen. We've already seen MLB The Show, and I don't think from what the research I've done, Lego Horizon was not a Lego decision. It was a PlayStation decision. And the key word that you have to take away from all this, and again, I have literally had people get so upset when I mention this, but it's margins, profit margins, right? That's what these companies are after. And so I have this article here. I think it's from it's almost a year old, but it kind of gives you a glimpse into what into how PlayStation is thinking. And I saw a tweet recently too talking about talking about the future of PlayStation from from the higher ups at PlayStation. And so here's just kind of the snippets here. It says during an interview with Norges Bank Investment Management, Sony CEO Kenichiro Yoshida elaborated on Sony's future strategy. Sony described its plans to double down on expanding its gaming experiences to cloud platforms, mobile devices, and PC. Sony has already begun supporting Windows PC more aggressively in recent years, with first-party titles like Helldivers 2 and Marathon slated to launch simultaneously on PC. So if you've noticed on the thumbnail, I put Astrobot. I put Astrobot. Now, let me take you down my line of thinking real quick with, again, the show, Lego Horizon, already there. Sony's interesting because they're winning this generation with against Xbox, like winning. What does that even mean anymore? Because Microsoft, from my understanding, I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, but did around $500 million thanks to Call of Duty, with the next company closest to them being like EA, right? Selling games like college football, Madden, the soccer games, and I don't even know if they did much else this year. Probably some sim stuff that always seems to be supported. And the thing is, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but although PlayStation is like leading this generation with console sales, they still follow Microsoft and what they are doing, right? So like Microsoft does Game Pass. Sony does a version of Game Pass. Microsoft releases their games on PC. Sony then releases their games on PC. Like everyone in the suits at Sony, they're looking at dollars, right? They're looking at profit margins. And does the Switch did the first Switch move the needle for the show, or even did like Lego Horizons didn't even do well on PlayStation? Like it didn't. That game, unfortunately, as fun as it is, I think it was heading straight for the bargain bin. And it's really sad because it introduces a whole new audience to Horizon, and it's just done so well. Like it was one of the best Lego games I've ever played, but I just don't think it's I don't think it really moved the needle for him. But imagine, you get some of those PlayStation 4 exclusives like God of War, The Last of Us, and those show up on Switch too. They're gonna move units. And that's, at the end of the day, that's Sony's goal. Like what I find so funny, because I mostly just watch as a bystander at gaming Twitter, as like the same guys that were fighting about Sega and Nintendo in the playground are still tweeting about it and acting like it's like their favorite football team or something. It's so weird to me. They don't these companies don't care. They don't care. They want to make money, right? At the end of the day, the company's job is to make money. And they don't they don't care about uh your thoughts on how Sony's beating Xbox or, whatever the case is. Like they're just looking at dollar signs. That's their main goal here. Um so let's see. Joey Pitt says, "How late am I? I'm hiding at work." Ha ha ha. Stay safe, bro. Stay safe. I'm Jexy. God of War on Switch 2. Again, I want to make it very clear. This is speculation. This is this is just for the sake of conversation. But these comments that Sony is making, like, it almost feels like they're kind of preparing people for the possibility. And I mean, it would seem so unprecedented and just be like an absolute crazy time in gaming if we are buying PlayStation and Xbox games to play on our Switch too. But and I don't think this is like I think they might dip their toes in the water. Maybe something like Helldivers, which I think was like an exclusive deal, that might come over. I don't know that that's a PlayStation first party. I feel like it was like an exclusive thing, like more of a like a first on PlayStation kind of thing. But I do think if the Switch 2 is a success as much as uh everybody seems to believe it's going to be, I don't know why they wouldn't want to put the likes of Astrobot and some of their older titles, because we all know that Sony loves selling their older titles. And so the Switch 2 could be a place for them to thrive. So it would just be so crazy, such an interesting and just crazy, crazy time if that happens. Um, Nate and Ace says maybe here and there start with Horizon games, knowing Sony they'll release Horizon Zero Dawn the same day as a new Zelda game. I mean, I was watching video of Horizon Zero Dawn, and it looks incredible. It looks so good, and to be able to play everything on Switch 2 and have it essentially be like a PS4 Pro in the palm of your hand, I would like that'd be great. That would be fantastic. A topic for a whole nother day is how long before we see Nintendo start putting their games on PC. I think I think it's I think we are one unhealthy console generation away from watching Nintendo put their games on PC. I think that's all it takes. I think when at the end of the day, when the money stops flowing, they look for those streams of revenue that they can start putting their games. And you know, I could be crazy, but um we got M over on TikTok saying hit and run, come home to me, baby. Simpsons hit and run. M will forever be wanting to see that. So I love it. Taking a look here, Cryptic says, I think PlayStation is still game by game basis on if their games will come to different console platforms, but I could see Helldivers. MLB The Show um, comes with games that are kind of like second party, like Bungie. Yeah, exactly. And maybe live service games also. Nadia Nay says Japanese holding companies will hold their ground as long as possible. They will. But part of me feels like they've shown their hand a little bit. That's really the whole point of this conversation is like I feel like to a certain extent they've shown their hand. They've because they're just following the dollars. And this isn't 2010 where, you know, like it was an event for your new game to come out. New games come out all the time. And, you know, midnight releases, kind of a thing of the past. Like the the hype around things has dwindled to the point that, like, if they could move an extra 3 to 5 million copies of their game because they're on Nintendo's platform, margins, right? Like margins. So I wouldn't be surprised if it's happening at some point. Joey Pitt says, "Please bring college football to Switch 2." I would be shocked if we don't see much greater support from EA this time around. Cryptic says, "Yeah, it's a gray line on what is winning. Console sales, yes, they are winning. Outselling PS4 Pro, yes, they are winning. I guess so far. Games are everywhere now. Both do PC, both have streaming, etc." Exactly. It's not like it was where it was like, oh, we sold this many consoles, we sold this many copies of our game. I think where Xbox is winning, if you will, is they hold the keys to games like Call of Duty that has Warzone. And I know Warzone is hit and miss, but outside of the vocal minority that talks about their stuff, go to Twitch and look at what's being played. Look at what the top games are, right? They're Call of Duty, Fortnite, League of Legends. That's and you can almost bet that that's why Sony was like, okay, we got to get a good live service game out. And then Concord happened, and then they got super cold feet, and they just shut everything down. And that it's because it's a huge gamble. You make a live service game. I mean, we just got notice that what's the Warner Brothers game? Is it called Multiverses or something like that? It's like the Smash game. It's getting shut down. Like the servers are going offline. So there's a lot of gamble when it comes to these live service games. But then what's crazy, you guys, and I know we don't chat about it all that much, or we probably don't even think about it all that much, but Nintendo's got a lot of these live service games on the Switch already. Fortnite is there. They've also launched basically what, 2 of their own, and maybe the number is higher, but they're Switch and mobile, which is a great way to like shore up what they're doing with Star Wars Hunters, which is a fun game. It's, baby's first hero shooter, and then Pokemon Unite. Like those games are still, like, from my understanding, still going strong. And so, but they're just kind of like, you don't see, they're not talked about all that much. We don't see much from them. So it's interesting, but like, it's almost like in some aspects, Nintendo cracked the code. I mean, Star Wars, obviously a very, like, I mean, semi-healthy brand at least. And then, but tying these live service games to mobile, it expands the audience significantly. That's why I wouldn't be surprised if Call of Duty Mobile is what ends up coming to Switch. It might be a better home for it. Joey says, you're going to buy the system you want to buy. It helps sales of all games that are available in all places. Yes, it does. And that's, again, that improves those profit margins. So Nate says, honestly, I see it as third place is always going to change the game for the future. The Wii U sold horribly, and Nintendo changed the game with the Switch. And now we have an oversaturation of handheld. Yeah, and there's a ton out there. There really is. But let me ask you guys, because even with this, like the Steam Deck, I really don't have any, like, I don't have enough time. There's not enough time in the day for me to decide if I'm going to reach for my Switch or a Steam Deck. I barely touch my Xbox. Like, I wonder, I mean, I can think of Johnny. I know Johnny Bo's got both of them, but like, do you guys in the chat have much interest, or if you're listening after the fact, you can leave a comment. Like, do you have interest in jumping into those other handhelds, or are you playing your Switch because it's where the Nintendo games are and that's what you're most interested in playing? And I think that's going to be the case for most people. Nate says now Xbox third place. They did Game Pass and concentrating on software. Yeah, almost taking a Sega approach, but like they're financially, from my understanding, they're 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 winning. I know that they may not have sold as many consoles, but now when it comes to software, and because their software is everywhere, it's that helps move that needle that the investors want to see. And the investors are very important in this business. M says my flatmate loved COD on the iPad. It was so interesting because I can't imagine it without a controller. So what's funny is, I mean, you guys see me talk about the Galileo all the time that I use on my Switch. I've used similar items for my iPad to play Call of Duty Mobile. And what was really funny is one of my barbers was like kind of trash talking me about Call of Duty Mobile and how he could smoke me in the game if he played handheld and I played with my controller. And that isn't that, like, when we started playing, I started racking up the kills really, really quick. He had to completely change his tactics, and he did end up beating me, but it was super, super close. And he played all the time, like all the time. I was like super, super casual, but it was funny to me, like all of his boys were kind of like, "What? You're losing right now?" It was a really funny experience because, like, we're in the barbershop and doing this, and it was really, really fun. But it honestly blows my mind that people can play on the tablet like that. Like, I'm like, no, thank you. I'm not interested. I'm not interested. A puzzle game, or even making, like, if Mario Maker got an app that I could make on my I could make stages on my phone, perfect. Like, that's great, but not to actually play games. That's crazy. Crazy, crazy, crazy. So, oh my God, I have so many comments to get to. Let's see. Joey Pitts, GTA 5 and 6 could be more sales if they come to Switch 2. Absolutely. Absolutely. Cryptic says, let me ask this. Do you think games like Splatoon will ever come to Xbox and PlayStation? That game is big in Japan, and we see Square try to do something similar, but it didn't hit. And I think it did. I think that's, I mean, it literally, we could talk about this for a while, but like, I feel like these people, or these studios that try to copy Nintendo, because they don't have the brand muscle behind it, it doesn't they don't take off. Multiverses, like, and you're talking about having IP and licensing for incredible characters, but it was no Smash, right? And what Square did was no Splatoon. Like, it just it at the end of the day, it wasn't. And so, like, there's that perfect formula that comes out of the Nintendo dev teams of, like, you know, amazing art, great gameplay loop, and everything just kind of works. It's not to say that somebody can't catch lightning in a bottle, right? Like, but when they're trying to rip off, if you will, or uh take inspiration from some of the stuff that Nintendo has done, at least with that game in particular, didn't work. Not always the case. Look at Astrobot, game of the year, right? So, I mean, there's definitely cases where it can work, but again, it was that, so, like Sony had a very hungry fan base ready for a new game, and the devs behind Astrobot made something amazing. So it's it, it and of course, a ton of inspiration from Mario. I mean, even when I saw it and went hands on with it, it was just like, yo, this is like this is like a mix of Sunshine and Odyssey and every all the best things in Mario. So in that case, it can work. But I think with Square, I just don't know that like when you say the word Square, what do you think about? Final Fantasy, right? RPGs. Like, and you can't fault them for trying. Like, you've got to make those risks. It's just sometimes there's no reward in it, which is unfortunate. Um let's see. Nady Nay says, do we I think he was just answering Cryptic's question there. So Nate says, with how protective Nintendo is with IP, I don't see Nintendo on an open platform like PC. They will be so modded, and I'm in the same boat until we see a generation where things start to. The moment investors start, breathing down their neck is when I think we start to see them looking for other avenues to put their games. And I don't think Nintendo's just going to be like, hey, let's put Mario on Steam. No. Nintendo would have a launcher, and like they would do it the way Sony tried, but it would work. I think, where it would be like, if you want to play, you got to be in our ecosystem. That's they still want their control. So, and again, I mean, a topic for another time for sure. It's not something I think we have to really think about all that much. That being said, if we had the opportunity to have like Mario Kart running at the absolute highest settings ever, I would be so stoked for that. Like, to see Breath of the Wild or a massive 3D Zelda game just cranked to ultra. I'm here for it, So I see Sippable is here. What's going on? Welcome on in. Joey Pitt says Crash Bandicoot Master Chief Astrobot will be in the next Smash roster. Let's go. Joey Pitts, I still play Star Wars Hunters and pay for that pass every time. It's my laid back every night game. That's where I started playing it. I started playing it before I was falling asleep at night. Like I picked up a couple of skins, one battle pass, and I'm like, I got my entertainment out of it, out of a couple bucks. Like it wasn't all that much. So it was and it's still fun to pick up and play every now and again. Nate says PC handhelds are niche, but still trying to get that Switch money. Yeah. And I mean, again, the only people I really see talking about these PC handhelds are people that don't play or talk that much about Switch. It's usually like big Xbox fans that are using the cloud service or cloud gaming or the PC, the Xbox Ultimate, the PC side of things to play those games on the go. So, and I'm glad they're there. And I mean, again, this is an Xbox, right? Like that's definitely a real thing. So Joey says Switch 2 will have mouse controls. So I can only imagine FPS upgraded for is it S2? I think it says. So yeah, and the mouse, like that's going to be crazy too. How are we going to be playing first person shooters when it comes to Switch 2 games? Cryptic says, what do we know about Nintendo is how much their games cost to make. As we go longer into their life cycle, they will get up there. They will have no choice but to make 4K games. So you're curious if that's when we see similar choices like PlayStation and Xbox are doing. Yeah, and I mean, my gut, it's strictly a gut feeling, right? But I think Nintendo's tech and what Sony is doing with the PlayStation 5 Pro is the answer to 4K gaming. It's machine learning and AI working to upscale and upres 1080p to 4K And so I don't I think I honestly think to a certain extent, Nintendo is going to maybe I don't want to say save gaming, but like I think they're going to open up the opportunity for maybe dev cycles to not be so insane and to have like the size of games not be so insane, right? Where these teams could essentially go back to making Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3 games and then have them up-resed is kind of what I'm thinking may be possible. Also, Nintendo, they're wizards when it comes to their own hardware, and they they're going to be putting out stuff that's probably going to blow our minds. Like I have a feeling it's going to be crazy. I see a question over on TikTok that says, so CTR characters added to the Mario Kart roster. I mean, well, that's a good question. That's a good question because I believe that's Toys for Bob, but you guys can correct me. And so that would have to be a deal worked out. But I mean, who knows? Who knows? So um let's see. Joey says cryptic 4K games are fine, but not needed. I don't need to see every single hair in DK's body in the new Donkey Kong Country game. And that's how a lot of Nintendo fans are. But when we start to get a taste, and I mean, I jump in and I play Call of Duty and I'm like, yo, this is crazy. Going like Forza Horizon 5, supposedly coming to Switch 2, right? That thing running on the Series X, like, you know, I got a 2K monitor right now. That's what I played on. That's what I've mainly played on. But 2K 120, like you can start to get used to it real quick, right? Like you can start to get used to it real quick. That doesn't mean we're gonna need it, but with some of these like bigger and more vast games, I think like I'm playing Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition right now, and guys, it looks so empty, right? It's a Wii game. It's a Wii game, and I'm just like this world, and the draw distance is so. I'm like just wandering along. All of a sudden, I'm like, oh, there's enemies here. Like I couldn't see them until I got within like 3 feet. So it can be crazy. So Nate said, can't forget Square with its Foam Stars attempt at Splatoon and Chocobo Racing. Like, who are you pulling from Mario Kart for some Chocobo? Yeah, again, it's I don't know. I don't. Those are the kind of meetings that you'd love to be a fly on the wall, and then start whispering in somebody's ear, like, stop what you're doing right now. Like, don't waste your time. Don't waste your time. Cryptic says, Josh, you say Mario Kart maxed out. I can only imagine RPGs like Xenoblade for me with how massive the scope they are, or Zelda games that look like that Wii U tech demo. Yes, 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 yes. Um, uh, let's see. Nintendo setting the standard again, Joey Pitt says. Shocker. I love it. Cryptic regarding 4K, wasn't it last week you mentioned my dad? He did not want to go back to not playing, on, and it wasn't even 4K. It was just only 1080p, but it was like if you look at the crowd in MLB The Show on the Switch, it looks like clay, right? Everybody looks just kind of mushed together. Whereas on the Xbox, it's just better lighting. There's just everything has more life, and that's really what that's what I'm saying. You start to get a taste for that kind of stuff, and you're like, yeah, I want to see. And I mean, there are still moments where even yesterday we're streaming Mario Kart for Kart Club, and like you look at stages like Daisy Circuit, and the way the sun is setting and just the lighting on that stage is like golden hour, Moo Moo Meadows. Like I'm still just like, yo, Nintendo works some magic. And this wasn't even a Switch game. This was a Wii U game, And so I think we're going to be real. I mean, I think the thing that was most impressive about Mario Kart that we saw for the new on the Switch 2 trailer was just the draw distance. Like we're seeing so much of this world. Like it's huge. It's just gigantic. And that's awesome. Like, it's very, very appealing. So, uh, Joey Pitt says, "Bring back 16-bit RPG games. I'm playing Earthbound lately, so, um, good, so good, yet graphics are fine," right? And I mean, but Square, like, that's where I feel like Square hit some home runs is, uh, Triangle Strategy, Octopath Traveler, you know, like, I mean, Bravely Default is not that HD 2D stuff, but like there's they've really done made some strides when it comes to RPGs, and I love seeing pixel art, especially like when it's looking really sharp. So um Cryptic says, but Mario Galaxy still looks amazing with the recent remaster. And looking at Astrobot, I can only imagine Galaxy in 4K. Yeah, yeah, and there you go. And it's like I said, like I feel like a conversation that's almost always had is that, oh, Nintendo fans are just used to lesser graphics. It's not why we're buying Switch stuff. It's not why we're. But then, like, you take a game, and I know Nate is playing this right now. I don't know if he's still in the chat or not, but like, you take a game like Metroid Dread, and it's like it doesn't need it doesn't need a ton of horsepower, but like the world feels alive, and there's stuff happening in the foreground, in the background, and the way they do the boss battles, and the different ways that like Samus interacts with the environment, or like Luigi's Mansion. Like, Nintendo knows their stuff. Like, they still very much know their stuff. Like, I would say this may be a bit of a hot take, but that like in the Xbox, PlayStation, and GameCube era, Resident Evil was Nintendo's time to shine when it came to the when it came to the graphics department. And I would say that Luigi's Mansion was this generation's Resident Evil, because I mean, put that game up against any other like cartoony, put Luigi's Mansion or Mario Odyssey up against Astrobot. Like, I need to go and see more Astrobot, but I mean, I would imagine there's probably not like huge differences. Maybe there's some better reflections and better lighting effects or something on Astrobot. You guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but like, I think you get what I'm saying. If you're not trying to do Call of Duty simulation real life, but you're staying cartoony, Nintendo's gonna Nintendo's gonna crush. The fact that you could go from the Sky Islands to the depths in a single fall, what what kind of wizardry is this? It's insanity. They know what's up. I have a feeling we still have, like, we're very much gonna be like shocked by how good some of these games are going to look, because again, Luigi's Mansion isn't based in reality. It's not needing to look like it's not needing to look like a realistic game. The more like basically the more we can get to where we are playing the Super Mario Brothers movie, that's I feel like that's more of the direction that we want to head as Nintendo fans, right? I mean, don't get me wrong, the Legend of Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom, Breath of the Wild, yeah, that could bring some realism, but there's still a cartoony aspect to it. It's always been there. And so do we want Zelda to look like Horizon, or do we want Zelda to still keep um that kind of cartoony vibe that it's had for so long? I don't know, but I think we have the options now that we've never had before with the Switch 2. And I think it's going to be pretty impressive. So Nate says, best looking games on Switch, no doubt, from CGI to gameplay being seamless looking. Yeah. Yeah. Cryptic says COD needs realistic 4K ray tracing for the Nicki Minaj skin shooting the other Fire Demon Lord skin that has nothing to do with a military shooter. Yeah. Yeah, they've gone crazy. they've gone crazy. So Nate says there's a reason that Astrobot praised Nintendo so hard on their award accepting speech. Yeah, yeah, no doubt there, no doubt. And I mean, I think when you get away from that, like when you're in the Nintendo family of games, like it's it's exactly that. It's about family games, right? It's about games uh, that are great for kids, but still fun for adults. And we don't need to see the reflections as much as I would like to of the other carts, like you could see in Forza when Microsoft showcased the latest trailer, right? With the ray tracing and all the bells and whistles. But Mario Kart's still gonna look it's still gonna look incredible. And Joey says, I don't know, I enjoyed Echoes of Wisdom cartoony feel, yet it looked real clean. Yes, yeah, exactly my point. Like when you take these more cartoony games, you don't need all the horsepower, is kind of my point. But now we're gonna have this horsepower. So how does that improve things? Even Super Mario Brothers Wonder, like look at how many layers there are. Like if you stop the game and position Mario somewhere where you're not going to get hit and just look at the way, like it looks like you're in a painting, and then you've got the level just out front. Like it's gorgeous. It's gorgeous. And so I'm so excited for the future and what these games are going to look and play like with that much more horsepower, uh knowing what they've been capable of doing with the Switch 1. I mean, and not to mention, I mean, you take, like, I played all the way through Doom on Switch 1, right? It was, I think 30 frames a second. The textures were a little bit muddy and grainy and stuff, as to be expected, but I still did it. I still did it. I don't know that, like, I think playing a game like Doom on Switch 2 is going to be very close to playing it on your Series S or X. Cryptic says also, I like the Astrobot is like a Nintendo game. It brings competition for both companies to make awesome platformers that play and look great. Yes. Inspiration should be taken from other companies and learning from each other. Absolutely. And we win as gamers when that happens. Like we are the ones that win when that happens. Like Astrobot is a win for everybody because it's Astrobot was almost like Smash in the way that it seemed more like a celebration of gaming, not just another platformer, but like a platformer that looked to the king of platformers for inspiration and created something amazing. And they flat out, like, they said it. Nate says it can be done if it's made for Switch. Monster Hunter Rise looked great. Alien Isolation plays better on Switch than other consoles. Yeah, it's crazy. And Rise, like, Capcom knows their stuff. Their engine works great on Switch. And from what I've played of Monster Hunter Wilds, I believe that we will see that game running smoothly on Switch too. So, well, we are at that hour mark. It's crazy, you guys. I love doing this so much. Thank you for being here with me live. Again, if you're on TikTok, if you've noticed, I can't move anybody's comments on TikTok. I can only do it on YouTube. So if you want to be a part of the conversation, you do have to be over there. But you guys have been super, super awesome. Really, really appreciate all of you. And we'll be back tomorrow, 3:30 Eastern. If you guys have topics or anything you want to cover, hit me up in the Discord, leave it in the comments below. And we can talk about them throughout the week. I got one more comment here from Cryptic that says, Josh, do you need Switch games like Prison Simulator for Xbox 4K goodness? No. I do not. So, but speaking of, Nate, make sure you go and listen to the beginning of this because you will get a kick out of it. So appreciate you guys so much. If you're listening after the fact at the gym or on your drive or whatever, y'all are amazing. You're beautiful. I appreciate all of you, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye now.